Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon. Welcome back to WP Builds This Week in WordPress, episode 7,304,000,004. So it feels like that sometimes. We are joined today with a really nice panel. This is going to be a really nice show, I feel. We've got quite a lot to discuss. There's been quite a bit of a WordPress controversy this week to discuss. We'll try to keep things calm. Not going to get inflamed and all overwrought, though. We're going to maintain our calm during this. But as always, I'm joined by Paul Lacey, my co-host, and I'm going to hand it over to him to introduce himself and then introduce the other panelists today.
Did you hear that strange noise I just made then? Instead of saying hello, I just went, and a weird noise came out instead. So.
No.
It's a good start.
For those of you listening on audio, Paul just made a weird noise.
It was supposed to be the word hello, and then it just went totally wrong. So I think I'm ready to speak now. So I just want to introduce the guest today. And Jennifer, first of all, it's great to meet you finally. I know I've been following you on Twitter and seen you on lots of events and stuff. So it's great to have you on the show for the first time. And to give you a little bit of an intro, Jennifer Bourn helps small businesses build brands, create content, and grow profitable online platforms. And she's best known for her business systems, family adventures, and waffles, and shares everything she's learned through business mentorship, training programs like Profitable Project Plan, and events like Content Camp. So I want to just quickly ask you about the waffles. Is that like Parks and Recreations type waffles? Like if you watch that TV show, do you watch Parks and Recreation?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, we just started wondering. It came from my husband not wanting me to use the oven in the summer when it's like 110 degrees and we want to make brownies. And he's like, no, we're not turning the oven on. And we thought, well, can we make these in the waffle iron, right? I saw something on social and then it was like, well, what else can we put in here? Everything can go in there.
Do you know, it's interesting because although we're very, very similar, North America and us in Britain, we are also very different. Like nobody here has waffles. I'd be surprised if anybody that I've ever spoken to has eaten a waffle recently. And also,
I haven't eaten a regular waffle in probably 3 years.
Okay.
But if it's a dough or a batter or anything like that, it can get cooked in there. And it's so much faster. You look at brownies go in the oven for like 45 minutes or something like that. You can pop the brownie batter in your waffle iron and it's done in 3.
I'm liking it. I don't even know what a waffle iron is. I'm guessing a waffle iron is like a clamp that goes down and like, okay, got it.
You can get them in the UK. You tend to get them, Nathan, at things like artisan foodery type stalls at festivals and stuff like that. But they're not super popular here. And anyway, I mean, Jennifer, sorry to focus on the complete non-business aspect to your entire profile. But if you're going to put waffle in there, then I'm gonna spot that and pull it out.
I'll talk about that any day.
Yeah, nice. Well, we will get to some of your business stuff as well. But just to let you know, we have waffles here, but they're completely different things. In the UK, waffles are basically like potato fries, but in a kind of square shape with holes in the middle.
Waffle fries. Also,
yeah, that's what we have. Yeah,
we love waffle fries. Is this the same as like pudding in America is like chocolate, and pudding in the UK is like bread and vegetables or something like that?
No. Pudding in the UK is anything that you eat after your main course. So basically, you'd say the word dessert. We say that a proportion of the people say dessert, and that word is fully understood. And a proportion of the people say pudding, and that word is fully understood. It's completely interchangeable. Also, you can say dinner, and it means exactly the same thing as tea. So tea time and dinner time are the exact same thing. And we have gravy, and it's brown, and you put it on meat.
Yeah, so we have that, except I'm Italian, so gravy is also meat sauce.
Did we talk about gravy last time? Well, I feel that we spoke about gravy last time Joe was on. That's so weird. Right, well, so carry on.
Probably on that bombshell, introduce Joe then, which thankfully he has no food references in his introductions text here. He's learned from last time probably. But so Joe Casabona, Joe, good to have you back. And you are a podcaster, educator, and WordPress developer, and you can find everything he does at casabona.org.
Thank you.
Casabona or Casabona?
Casabona. Again, if I'm bringing out the Italian, it's Casabona. That's how like all the Italians say it, and then they immediately follow with the English translation, which is good house. So
Casa house.
yeah,
Got it.
Casa, and then Bona.
Yep. Good house. Yeah. My surname's Wrigley, which literally means nothing.
Gum. Oh,
yeah, it means gum. That's, apparently, it comes from there was a small collection of like a little tribe of people who lived near a river called the River Wriggle. You see, going back into like the Middle Ages. So if you were from that tribe, you were one of the Wrigleys because you were near the River Wriggle. But yeah. So on This Week in Waffles, we'll finally, Joe nearly spat. We'll actually get some proper WordPress news. We are, of course, going to be talking about WordPress. And just before I put that article up, which I shouldn't have had on first stop, WP Builds, head over to wpbuilds.com if you want to find out all the stuff that we produce. We do this show each week, so if you're listening to this on audio, you could come back next week 2 p.m. UK time and we'll have another live show. We also do a podcast episode. We're up to episode 232 of that, and David Wormsley and I were speaking about site loading and speeding up your WordPress sites. But this week we've got a little laundry list. We've probably got about 7 or 8 little articles that we're going to try and cover off. And I think I'm up for the first one. By the way, I do apologize. It has just started what can only be described as hailing, really seriously heavy hail. And I've got some decorators who were outside a moment ago, and they've just come into my house and they're going to start banging things. So if that happens, I do apologize. There's not much I can do about it. WordCamp Europe finally has come around. I'm really excited about this event this year. I've been lucky enough to be selected as one of the media partners, so this is one of the things that I need to do is mention it as often as possible. So I'm encouraging everybody. Basically, if you're watching this, you are now in conflict. If you're watching this, you can either watch this or go and start the opening remarks on WordCamp Europe. But I've got to say, I logged onto it this morning, and they've got a proprietary SaaS platform. It's called something like Hublis or something like that, and it looks like a really neat setup. It looks like the event itself is going to be really nicely done. There's a really nice chat widget. You can sort of go and create hangout areas and all that kind of stuff. But the main focus for me today is to draw your attention to this page, which is at europe.wordcamp.org/2021/schedule. And it's what you might expect. It is just the schedule on the 2 tracks starting basically now. And I'm going to encourage you to just go here, have a look. There's a massive load on during the course of the next 3 days. Just about any topic you could imagine under the sun is going to be on here. I don't know if either of you two are speaking. I should have asked that before we began the call. Jennifer or Joe? No? And you're not, are you, Paul?
Not on this one, no.
No, okay. But that's my encouraging words. Go and check it out. If you are in any way, shape or form connected with WordPress, this is the biggest event that there is in the WordPress space, certainly in the live thing. Who knows, maybe this time next year, we'll get back to doing it in proper in-person event. But it looks like the platform that they've got is best in class. So don't be put off if you've had experiences in the past where the event turned out to be a bit of a damp squib. This looks like it's going to be a real hit. Anybody attending anything this week? Anybody bookmarked anything for this week?
I think the thing that I'm looking forward to those is there are several different talks that are all focused around using the block editor and really focused around helping people figure out how to do more with the core blocks. Right, there's so many people that talk about all the different plugins to add, all these other things. And I appreciate like Fabian Kagi's doing one on more focused around really looking at how you can leverage those core blocks. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yep.
I'm excited for the full site editing stuff. I'm working on the update to my Gutenberg course, so any insight I can get as I roll that out is going to be exciting. And also, shout out to my friend Katie Richards, who is speaking on Tuesday at 15:05. Yeah, I saw her name, and I have not confirmed this with her, but I don't know that she's spoken at a WordCamp before. So I don't recall seeing her name on the schedule. So shout out to Katie Richards and congrats on the WordCamp Europe speaking gig.
I feel this is a really nice way if you're not familiar with public speaking. And I'm familiar with public speaking in this environment. I've never really stood up at a WordCamp event and stood in front of a crowd because I know for a fact that I would be really shaken by that. It would terrify me, and I would actually physically shake. I feel like if you've not done it before, this online version of things is a really good way to sort of break the ice, get your name out there a little bit, get recognized, and then perhaps when the real things come around again, you'll have a few talks under your belt. But let's see if we can find that one. You said Tuesday, did you?
Yes.
Katie,
I didn't do the math, but I guess that's
Katie
like
Richards.
3 o'clock.
Yeah, she's first up. What does
Yeah.
CES? Is that Central? CEST.
Central is CS. Well, it's like we're CDT now.
Okay.
Right? We're in daylight time, so I don't know.
Okay, I think this would be about 9 a.m. or something in the UK,
Okay.
but 3 p.m. rather, where you are. So Katie Richards on tomorrow. That's lovely, and it just goes on and on. It goes on and on. There's not a lot of conflicting. The stuff that they put side by side. I think you're definitely going to want to pick one as opposed to the other. They've done a great job of this, and honestly, it's just the most spectacular bit of organization. I think they had a bit of a hiccup this morning. Some of the emails apparently hit spam, so they quickly sent out an email rectifying all of that as well. But basically, go to it, europe.wordcamp.org 2021 schedule, and get yourself signed up and attend. Paul, anything to add to that?
I'm just going to have it on in the background, listening, and see and look out for where the social aspects are. If there's kind of whether it's chats or group Zooms and those kind of things, and if I can make anything that's kind of a similar thing to a hallway chat, like hallway track, then I'll see if I can go in that. But I probably won't watch a lot of the talks, to be honest. I just want to kind of wait for the in real life WordCamps now. I'm kind of ready for that, and that's no disrespect to any of the events that are happening and everything, and I can disassociate myself from being a media partner. I'm just the co-host of this show, so I'm not
like I don't have all the pressure, Nathan.
So, yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
but yeah. I'm just gonna keep tabs on it and listening and see what's happening, because I like to keep up to date with what people are all talking about from different sides of things. But I don't think I'll be listening intently into anything and sitting there with the screen watching.
Sounds like Lee Jackson's in the same space as you. He says he's not attending. He's got seminar exhaustion at the moment. That I think your solution's actually perfect for that, Paul. If you have it on in the background, a bit like we would often do with music or something, is really good. And then Rick tells us they've actually run out of tickets. How do you run out of tickets to an online event? Tickets are not available anymore. My registration. Oh, Rick, I was talking to Rick about 3 minutes ago in the Facebook group, and he said he registered, but his ticket didn't come through. Oh, but you can follow it on YouTube. That's good. And there's how much we know. Apparently, it's Central European time. Sorry.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, I didn't actually know that. Oh, Central European Standard Time, which is the Amsterdam time zone. Crikey, what a lot of comments about the time zone. Thank you.
Maybe this is too fresh of a wound, but I don't think you need to. You're not in the EU anymore, so you don't need to know about the European time zones, right?
No,
I'm not taking part in this. That's it. I'm going. There's too much bad blood.
That's all right. Bye.
Yeah, that's it. No, we're not.
I
We're not.
turn off Joe's video.
The whole EU thing is gone. I actually tried to buy something the other day from a store in Germany, and it's like mics and mixing desks and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's fairly high ticket items, and the price is very attractive until you realise that there's no tax added, and they hit you at the border. And they don't even sort of make mention of it. You've just got to figure that bit out for yourself. Luckily, I caught a break and didn't do that. But no, we are no longer in the EU. Still part of Europe, just not the EU. Yeah, we didn't get our paddles and float the British Isles out into the middle of the ocean. Yeah.
I know at least that much.
Yeah. But fabulous event. Go and check it out. If you've got any misgivings, do what Paul's doing. Stick it on a spare monitor. Have it on in the background and listen. Okay, should we move on to the second piece, Paul? Your Yoast Diversity Fund piece.
Yeah, so HeroPress.com reported this, and it links to the actual post on the Yoast website as well. But on HeroPress.com, Topher has posted an article saying that Yoast used to offer something called a diversity fund, which they used to help people unrepresented in tech to attend events like WordCamps and stuff like that, mostly WordCamps, I think. And apparently they helped over 70 people join over 56 events in places like Asia, Africa, North America, South America, Europe, and Australia. And they said that the problem is in 2020 that all came to a halt because there's no WordCamp. So what they've done is they figured out that they still want to help people unrepresented in tech. So they've readdressed the budget and made it more of a project budget now. So anyone can apply to this. And for instance, it might be, let's say you're working on a plugin or a website, or you've got a bug to fix, or you want to contribute something to the WordPress core or whatever. You can apply to Yoast for a bit of money to help pay for that time that you want to do that project. I'm assuming that when events come back in, they'll reassess it again, and maybe they'll do a bit of helping people get to events and a little bit of helping people with projects. But it's just nice to see a company giving back in that way, directly taking cash and giving it to people to do and trust them to do what they want to do with that money, all in the name of moving us all forward in the community.
Sorry, I've just got my mic muted because of this horrific rain. I'm blaming you, Paul. I think Yoast are one of these incredible companies. Obviously, you know, you could be cynical and sort of think there's it's a bit of advertising and what have you with all of the stuff that they do, but they put a boatload of effort into the WordPress community. You know, they commit core developers, they second people out and really make the effort and things like this. It's just sort of like a nice bit of icing on the cake. There was a few people last year who I'd been in contact with who received this fund, not last year, the year before, who it made all the difference to getting to actual places, and seeing that now you can apply on the basis of more or less anything. I think that's really nice. They didn't need to do that, but they did. And I think props to them. Well done. Mm-hmm.
Maybe you could apply for some money to create a new Yoast banner inside the WordPress admin section.
Stop it. No, we're not going there.
I was really fighting with myself then to not say that. I was just like, I just can't. I just need to say this. Yeah. It's just to amuse myself, nobody else.
Well, you know, we all have our things, don't we? And you know, we've definitely done that story before. But yeah, okay. Unless Jennifer has got anything to say or Joe has got anything to say, we can move on to the next piece.
Well, I was going to say, I think the biggest thing that's interesting about this is with the switch. I mean, one, people, when you can't go to stuff, right? This makes sense to switch over to start funding projects, but contributing back and funding some of the projects people are working on, I think more people benefit from the generosity and the scholarships from that diversity fund now, because they're funding projects that are going to go into making WordPress better for everybody. The only thing on the flip side, though, makes me wonder, is it going to limit people that apply to only developers yet again, and then say, well, how does this work for somebody who's a designer or somebody who's a content or somebody who's in marketing that wants to give back to WordPress? It might be harder for them to see how that applies. So I'll be curious to see, once things do open up and we can start going to WordCamps and different things again, if maybe it'll be kind of a melding of the two, like we fund some projects and we help some people get to events. Because I really like the project thing, because we'll all benefit from the work that those people contribute back to the project. But I think that is it going to be one more thing that's like, hi, we're just supporting more developers to work, you know, like a little community, right? So I'm really interested to see how they kind of manage that, and then how it comes to fruition as everything kind of opens back up and events are a thing again.
Anything from you, Joe?
I think it's great. You know, I think people are cynical if they say, you know, like, oh, well, they only do it because they're in it for them. Like, I mean, sure, maybe there's a benefit to them. Right. Yeah. Like,
I mean, they're not in business to be poor, guys.
Yeah. Right. It's like how Calm has offered to like pay the fee for Naomi. I'm afraid to pronounce her last name, but the tennis player from the French Open. Like, no one's. Yeah,
advertising and goodwill.
Yeah, right. You're like, it's still helping people, and so it's maybe a win-win for both companies, but I think it's a bigger win for the recipients of the diversity fund, who can actually do cool things, and it's a bigger win for the greater community because now we're seeing more voices and more people and more projects.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's great that they do it. They don't have to do it. This is it's a substantial amount of money each year that they're forking out. And honestly, I think it's okay if you are doing that philanthropically, that you get to mention it from time to time, as a way of sort of saying, look, it's not just the plugin that we're selling. We're actually putting some of this money back, and we contribute things to cause. So I think you're absolutely right, Joe. Paul, did you want to add anything further? Or
the only thing was just, it's like Jennifer said, the impact that when someone has an idea, rather than, I just want to go to this place and someone helps you get there. Imagine you have an idea, you're not sure if your idea is any good because you're underrepresented in tech and you're not getting much recognition anywhere. And then Yoast comes along and goes, hey, have a few $1,000s or whatever it is that they give out. Suddenly the boost to that person, mentally, and their sort of self-esteem is going to be huge. So I think they probably can't impact as many people, but I think the way that people will be impacted will be bigger for pound for pound, dollar for dollar.
I just shared something in our chat. I think I saw this morning, but the repository newsletter noted that they announced Yoast announced the recipients of the fund.
Oh, cool.
And they are across, I just clicked out of it, of course. They volunteer across community, polyglot, support, core, docs, and design teams. So
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that it's across the different areas of WordPress, right? Because that was my initial worry, is like, oh man, is this just going to be another thing? So I love that they put in that effort to cross multiple teams on core. And really, I do. I think this is a really good pivot, because it is sending somebody to a WordCamp. That's awesome. And they get to have a cool experience, but funding a whole project that's going to maybe go back into core, or another plugin that more people can use, this is something that's going to benefit. Like the ripple effect of this fund, I think, will be more wide felt.
I've just scrolled through the repository email that Joe linked to, and
oh, nice.
There's nothing more for us to say. Basically, just pause the video, go and just slowly scroll through it with me, and they've said everything. It's this is such a good newsletter. I'm very jealous when this comes out and thinking of all the time they put into it. But it looks like, just quoting it, it says Yoast Care Fund recipient announced. Yoast has announced 2021 Yoast Care Fund recipients. Congratulations to Ali Nimmons. Forgive me if I butcher these people's names. Bego Mario Guard. Oh dear. How do we do that one?
Maybe people should just go and read it.
Yeah, go and look on the screen. Because some of those, I'm so sorry. That was awful. I shouldn't have embarked on that without actually at least scanning it first. But there's lots of people's names up there, and it's very nice. I think we can all applaud Yoast for their endeavors here. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Next one, Paul, is changing tack a little bit, and we feel like we put our foot in it a little bit here, didn't we? Because we've sort of linked two things which maybe don't link, but we'll segue anyway. So
I still think there's something there, but
okay.
we'll see.
See how we go.
So yeah, talkmag.io just published an article called "Why WordPress Agencies Are Embracing Gutenberg," and what this article is, it's kind of like a moment in time snapshot of 15 different agencies that they've interviewed about who have switched from using, for instance, themes and page builder type setup to moving on to using Gutenberg and that kind of approach for building websites for their clients. So there's a couple of things about this article. The first one is, if you're reading this, you're like, oh no, well, I'm not doing that yet. Well, don't worry. The title is slightly misleading, and it's kind of almost suggesting that all the agencies are embracing Gutenberg. They're not. It's just, this was 15 agencies who have responded to the call from TalkMag to contribute to this. But some of them are, and they share the reasons, the challenges, and how they're doing it. And in summary, so it's the 15 agencies that they spoke to, some of the reasons that they are switching were, big one was performance. So a lot of people have said that they found their websites have much better scores on Google. They just generally feel faster on the same hosting and stuff like that. A lot of people said that they had lost trust with previous third-party products. So not wanting to bash Elementor, but it was mentioned a couple of times in there. Elementor kind of got mentioned as a kind of comparison of, well, when we were with Elementor, it was kind of slow. Then we moved to Gutenberg and it was fast. And then again, they were mentioned because Elementor had a bit of a rough update with their version 3.0 that broke a lot of websites. So some agents said that they lost trust with that particular product and they felt that they could trust more with the core system of WordPress and going down that way and have less reliance on these third parties. Some people said that they found they had lack of the ability for things like full site editing, not the official full site editing, there's the concept of being able to edit your whole site, and things like dynamic data in websites, which again isn't exactly true. If you use some of the main page builders, Beaver Builder, Elementor, Divi, those have all got kind of full site editing and dynamic. But I think the thing is that a lot of agencies were probably using a huge array of different third-party page builders that didn't have that kind of functionality, and they found that kind of functionality with Gutenberg. But one of the most interesting things for me is that the article actually states that it was almost unanimous that a huge percentage of the agencies that had switched to Gutenberg were using Toolset in order, which is a plugin for WordPress, which helps you build kind of more full dynamic websites. Ton of them were using Toolset in order to achieve the things that they could achieve before with page builders. Toolset is a third-party plugin, so they are reliant on that third-party plugin, of course. But the cool thing about Toolset at the moment is, we've covered this a number of times, is it really is at the moment leading the way for anyone who wants to create full dynamic archive views, single post templates, search and search results, 404 pages, that kind of stuff with the block editor, with Gutenberg, with their favorite theme of choice, whether that's GeneratePress or Cadence or something like that. A few people were using GeneratePress. I know GeneratePress has now got some archive view, some single post view type controls using the block editor as well. So this kind of stuff is happening, but it does seem that you do at the moment, until full site editing is good enough for these kind of agencies to jump on, you still do need a third party solution to do the things that you want. But it seems that people are more comfortable with using the third party systems that are going with the flow of WordPress, as opposed to doing their own thing and taking people off in a different direction. So I found it super interesting. There's a few people we know in the comments. There is some interesting comments in there as well. I'm trying to remember which one it was that caught my attention. So there was a lot of people saying that there's still overwhelm. So if you do switch over, there's still a lot of overwhelm because there's such an array of choice of blocks. But one of the ones that was interesting for agencies is that a lot of agencies like to have their clients on things like care plans, which is a really advisable thing to do if you do run an agency where you are a freelancer. And there was a couple of cynical people in the comments saying that agencies will love Gutenberg because their clients will find it so difficult to use that they'll have to sign up to care plans. But then there was some people who were kind of in response like, no, we've actually found that our clients preferred the simplicity of what we're asking them to do than using Elementor or a page builder, for instance. And I think that is because people are using Toolset and they're giving people pages with forms to fill in for their content, and they're using the block editor to dynamically put that content in different places. So they're taking their clients out of the page visual editing experience and making it easier for them. So very interesting seeing that people are making some very nice websites, very performant websites with the block editor.
Wow, thank you. I feel like Toolset kind of went away a bit. I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, it kind of lost its mojo. When I got into WordPress, it was one of the hot tools. You know, it was a toss up between that, ACF, meta blocks, and things like that. But then it kind of lost its way a little bit, and it didn't seem to catch up with the page builder crowd and the groundswell of support that gained. And then a couple of years ago, it looks like they put both feet into the Gutenberg pond and just kept going, and really went all in. And now they're reaping the rewards of that investment in time. You know, they've put the proprietary page builder thing behind them, and I'm quite surprised actually that they featured so heavily, because they, like I said, they sort of became a bit quieter than some of their rivals. But I'm pleased to have them back. That's great.
I knew on the inside that, they were the ones capable of making that work for agencies, but I didn't realize how much agencies had figured that out as well and were all using it.
Yep.
So that's interesting.
Yep.
I have either never heard of Toolset, or I just assumed that people were talking about like the generic term, like, oh, I use a tool set or something. I don't think I've ever heard of this plugin before.
So Toolset is a suite of so it's, imagine ACF, but then roll in the ability to create actual views and customize the loop and things like that. And in the past, you had to do that in WYSIWYG text boxes. So you had to wrap everything in shortcodes and provide the HTML inside of a shortcode wrapper. And it worked. It was just a bit of a faff to get things. And then page builders came along, made that entire process click, point, drag. And so they kind of got left behind, but it looks like they've put all of their tools into blocks. So now, for example, you can create a views block where you could create a custom archive by doing basically the same thing, but now by pressing things instead of having to copy and paste a multitude of shortcodes. So it's really nice. It's quite an elegant solution, actually. And they've got a ton of custom blocks to achieve, I would say, almost anything that you wanted to achieve, actually. And they're one of the few people that I think have pulled it off inside of Gutenberg as is.
Nice. I'm gonna check this out. It looks amazing.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot there.
I used to use Toolset a lot, and when Beaver Thema came out, that was almost like a like-for-like swap. So think Beaver Thema with the block editor.
Gotcha. Cool.
So I think you'd like it quite a lot, to be honest.
Yeah. And then you were going to segue beautifully here, Paul, into something that Jennifer's been creating, but we're not sure if it's the perfect segue anymore. So we'll clumsily segue.
Let's try it. So the segue was that this post on this about this technical thing for agencies and freelancers is all kind of related to me of the changing environment at the moment. So you've always got to keep on your toes. The tech's changing. Should you jump to the block editor or should you stick with your tools? What should you focus your time on? And then at the same time, with all this tech change and big changes in WordPress and what tools we should or shouldn't be using, we've got things like Google Core Web Vitals sort of with a kind of as a threat, making you kind of feel like, well, we do need a more performance sort of solution. And there's a lot of things that you could, if you were having a tough time and you weren't sure what was wrong with your business at the moment, you might be able to convince yourself that the problem is that you're using the wrong tools and spend a lot of time focusing on tools to try and fix your business. Yeah. So Jennifer Bourn is putting the thumbs down to that. And my segue, in a way, because we've got Jennifer on at the moment, is when I was kind of researching what you're up to at the moment, Jennifer, and the different products that you've got, I saw that you've got one called Pause, Pivot, and Prosper. And I know that that's not really anything to do with technical things, but I have recently paused, pivoted, and prospered. Basically, that's kind of been my last sort of 8 months with the COVID thing going on and shutting down my agency and switching to freelancing. Now, what I wanted to do is just give you an opportunity to just talk about that, because I know it's not a tech thing, but it does feel like there's so much pressure to figure out what you need to change to fix your business or to fix what you're doing at the moment. And to me, we shouldn't get too focused on the tech. We should always be mindful of that the environment in the business world is changing around us at the same time. So that was my segue. Did that almost work, Jennifer?
I think that worked.
Yeah.
I think that worked.
Yes.
Pause, Pivot, and Prosper was a full day live event I did. I invited in my friend Kelly Azevedo and Chris Lemma, Nathan Ingram, Corey Ashton, and we all delivered sessions focused around how you do business when you can't do business as normal, right? How do you continue to retain clients when clients are struggling themselves to make money, right? How to stay in business? How do you keep them paying you and position yourself as an indispensable partner, right? How do you continue to make sales when people are wondering if they can even stay in business, some of those kinds of things. And we included templates and resources and all the things that we were kind of using to navigate those same things. So now it's available on demand. But it's one of those things that I run a program called Profitable Project Plan, and Pause, Pivot, and Prosper came out of a lot of questions I was getting from agency owners and freelancers and Profitable Project Plan about how we navigate this change, right? And how we go through that. And so Pause, Pivot, and Prosper came out of that. And along with those conversations and things, I think what's really interesting about that Torque article is that, like, I feel like with the block editor, WordPress core has said, like, if you're a Mandalorian fan, this is the way, right? This is the way. This is how it is, right? And continuing to say, oh, I don't like Gutenberg. This, it's a pain. I'm not going to use it, whatever. You're consciously diverging from the WordPress way, right? And these page builders were really amazing for people to give them more control over complex page layouts and to do things that weren't possible with WordPress. But moving forward with even full site editing on the horizon and blocks and all of these things, we're able to do more with WordPress core and do it the WordPress way. What I have found with the agencies and the freelancers in Profitable Project Plan, with my own direct clients, with the agencies that I work with direct, is the more things you are spread across working on, the more time it takes to revisit that code base. How's this built again? Right? If you're working on, you have one site in Elementor and one site that's Genesis and one site uses Beaver Builder and one site uses this, it costs you more to work on because it takes more time to figure out, okay, how's this code base? Where are the things in this one at? How is this? So your profitability isn't as good when you're using all these different things. And the other thing is you're giving clients another thing to learn and another thing that's not WordPress core, which if they ever stop working with you, they have to find somebody that knows that same piece of software or that same page builder, right? So I feel like agencies that are slowly leaning into the block editor, because let's face it, it's not something you're going to change overnight. That article was like, I built this one site, right, with the block editor. It isn't, we've gone all in and we're using no other tools. Let's be honest about this, right? They're probably still using other page builders too. They're just slowly leaning in and starting to make that transition. And as you do, I feel like you're giving clients what will be the WordPress way moving forward and giving them something that will have a longer lifespan and be easier to get help with from other people, right? And give a more consistent experience to people across the board, right? And that's what I'm seeing in the conversations with people in my programs and all of that is they're not abandoning page builders. They're just leaning more heavily into how can we provide an experience for our clients that is aligned with the WordPress way? And how can we create something that they're not going to feel like they need to revisit or redo in 2 years or 3 years?
I want to make sure that we announce what this is. This is what we're looking at on the screen at the moment is Jennifer's course, which, as she said, is now available on demand. It's jenniferbourn.com. No E in Bourn.
No E.
And it's pause, pivot, and prosper with each of those words hyphenated. So jenniferbourn.com, pause, pivot, and prosper. And just before we move on, I wanted to move to your main site where you outline all of the different things that you've got. Boy, you are busy. So now we're on the jenniferbourn.com/programs and courses, again hyphenated, and we can see that she's very busy. We've got the Profitable Project Plan, Content Creators Club, Confident Comebacks. Boy, I really need to make use of some of your stuff.
I picked that up at one of the events you were a speaker at, Jennifer. I think you gave it away as a freebie. Mm-hmm. Very cool, very cool. Which is what to say to clients or customers when they send you tricky emails or something like that. How to get yourself out of the uncomfortable, stressy feelings. Very good stuff.
There's a whole boatload of content on there. Can I ask you, Jennifer, did the Profitable Project Plan, was that a direct result of COVID, or was it just a more general feeling that you had and COVID was just the catalyst?
None of this had anything to do with COVID.
Okay.
Profitable
Right.
Project Plan stemmed from like 20 in the early 2000s, right? My business was growing really crazy, right? And I was overwhelmed, to say the least, right? With more business than I could handle. And I didn't really have good systems and processes. And I took the time to build out all the systems and processes and automations and client communications and resources and everything I needed to run my projects and work less. I had two little kids at the time. I mean, now they're big, but they were little at the time. And I needed to work less, but I didn't want to make any less. Didn't want to make any less money. So I needed to build all of these things to facilitate client education and client management and running my projects more smoothly and increasing my profit margins on my projects, right? And Profitable Project Plan was all of that I created. And then when Chris Lemma had invited me to come speak about it at WordCamp LA, everybody started asking, well, can I have this? Can I buy this? Are you selling this? I'm like, no, I'm not selling this. It's like hundreds of hours of work. Are you crazy? And I said no for years, right? Because I rolled it out in my business in early 2011. And then 2016, I was on vacation at Chris Lemma's house. And he was like, write the sales copy by the time I get out of this meeting. And I'm like, okay. So I did. But we ran the beta in 2016. And then I've been running the program ever since. And it just keeps growing each year based on what people are asking about and what they want, training on and things. But it's 35 weeks of live training, live lessons, live Q&A, co-working, hot seats. It's a 10-month long program that runs from January through October.
Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Honestly, Paul,
Yeah.
there are some people, aren't there, who just, they're just busy and effective. And we've got two of them on the show, and it's not me or you.
I can make things look nice on screens.
Yeah, I can't do that.
Cool.
Let me just mention that URL one more time. It was actually really nice because Matt Davis dropped it into the comments there. So it's pause, pivot, and prosper. And then once more, if you go to jenniferbourne.com/programs and courses, you can find a
Nobody's ever seen that page before. You guys are the first ones.
Ooh, scoop. Oh, check it out.
I'm rolling out a new website the weekend of like the 19th and 20th. And so I'm having to build out the pages that are on my new website. So
Nice.
I've built it out, but it's hidden and nobody's ever seen it. You guys are the first ones.
Was I allowed to show that? I'm really sorry if I...
Yeah.
Oh, good. Right. Okay. Because you put it in the comment. I thought it was...
It's
Yeah.
searchable. It's
Okay. That's great. That's
I like the ampersand in pause, pivot. And prosper.
I'm looking. Where am I seeing the ampersand?
On the pause, pivot. Yeah.
Oh, let me go back. Yeah, nice. That is a nice logo, isn't it? Yeah. Emphasis on the prosper. Nice. Really cool. We aren't just joined by one creator this week, though, because Joe Casabona is equally, he's making a boatload of content, especially in the Gutenberg.
Equally. But I'm trying.
Yeah. Take it. Just take the compliment. He's making lots of content in the Gutenberg space, but this week a really nice piece of content came out. So as he's on and it came out this week, this felt like a really nice time to do it. It's actually something that I'm really into. And Joe, although we won't get onto the content for another 30 seconds or so, I know that you had Leslie Sim on. With her newsletter glue plugin. I've pivoted over to that. It kind of looks like everywhere I'm going these days, everybody's moving over to that plugin. I think it's a really nice thing, but that plugin has kind of moved into the block patterns space. You're now kind of creating templates which are reusable as block patterns. You drop them into a post or a newsletter content type, and you can create your own newsletters and make them configurable exactly how you want them. But of course, the creation of block patterns is kind of still a little bit tricky for a lot of people. So this week, I don't know if I've captured you at your best on this exact slide. I just paused it at some point.
No, that's perfect right there.
That's as good as it gets. Okay. I tried really. I stopped it multiple times. Many that were worse than that.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's okay. That was a good one. And this week, Joe was talking about how to actually create a block pattern. It's about 14 minutes long. there's very little that somebody wouldn't be able to understand first time through. You just pause it at various points. Are you kind of into this? Are you really keen on the block patterns thing? It feels to me like, along with reusable blocks, this is going to be the metaphor for building almost everything into the future.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've talked about this a little bit. I applied to speak at WordCamp Santa Clarita with a talk about what theme developers need to think about moving forward in the full site editing era. And I think block patterns are at the core of that. We've heard, we've heard various people on the core team talk about it. And I just redesigned one of my websites and I wanted to use a few block patterns. And at this point, officially supported in core, you do need to add some code to add those block patterns. I think Justin Tadlock just released a plugin to help you do that without code that I'll probably put up on the YouTube channel later this week. But yeah, I was kind of surprised. I did this first on my live stream, and so people who attended my live stream got to see me like struggle through what was happening, because all the tutorials I found linked back to this JSON encoder. So the TLDR of this is that you create the block in the block editor, switch to the code editor, copy the code, and then you need to make it like PHP code friendly by encoding it. And the JSON encoder that every tutorial linked to no longer works for encoding block patterns or blocks.
Oh.
Yeah. So
That's fun.
I know, it was super great. Luckily, shout out to AJ Morris. He was on the live stream in the chat that day and links to a better one. And I figured, well, if I struggled this hard with it and I'm like a developer, I should make a video about it. So the working JSON encoder is linked there, and you add a plugin, register the block pattern, and then it's there for you to use. So, and I wanted to create a few for, content upgrades and things like that for my new site.
I'm always surprised when I speak to people in the WordPress space. I'm always quite surprised by how many people just use WordPress and they've never strayed into the boundaries of like creating a custom post type or adding any custom field. They just, they've made a business out of literally using WordPress and perhaps theming it slightly and selling off blogs and all of that kind of stuff. And so this is a really nice new metaphor. The idea basically is that you create something and then you can use it over and over again. And Joe's nice straightforward example is kind of like a heading, a piece of a corroborating text with a link and then a button, and he builds it in a page, sends it over to this escapes all of it, and then writes a few lines of PHP and in his code editor. Whole thing is 14 minutes with Joe talking. So I reckon, if you've done it 2 or 3 times, you could probably get it down to 2 or 3 minutes. And it's just such a neat way of doing things. If there's any bit on your site that you think, I've built that more than once, then this is the time to start experimenting with this kind of stuff. And it's a really nice video.
Yep. Thank you. And I'll just mention that the code is open source on GitHub, so you can just download the code and swap in your own blocks. But I'll also mention that like reusable blocks like almost do that, but you kind of have to do this weird dance, right? Where you add the reusable block and then you make it a convert to regular blocks. And I've done that a few times with like mixed results where I wasn't sure. I accidentally like updated reusable block everywhere. Block patterns will prevent that, right? Because they're not reusable. They are inherently supposed to be edited and generic templates.
Yeah, so you can drop it in, and you don't have to click that. I don't even know what that icon is. It looks to me like a copy paste icon, but it's the sort of disassociate. Yeah, it's the wrong icon, that, isn't it? It's just definitely copy paste. And so go and check it out. Unfortunately, I can't really tell you what the URL is because it's a YouTube URL, and so it's it's complicated and long. But basically, if you go to if you Google create your own block patterns for Gutenberg / the block editor, let's just put it on the screen and then you'll be able to see. And you're looking for Joe Casabona attached to that.
If you go to casabona.live, it'll take you to my YouTube channel.
Oh, nice.
And if there's not a live stream that week, it'll just take you to the most recent videos.
So do you when you do your lives, unlike this where we're talking to other people, is it just you're straight to the audience, and if it goes well, woo, and if it goes really badly, that's just the way it goes?
Totally. Yeah. It's like, I
Nice.
mean, it's kind of working in the open. Whatever I happen to be doing, like this week, I'll be working on my Gutenberg course. And so people will mostly see me like writing scripts and testing scripts, like spoken words, not like code scripts.
That is very brave of you.
Thanks. It's I'm like really good at recovering from like awkward situations. So
yeah, you've been on this show 3 times, and it's we're always very awkward.
Oh my god.
Let's move on. There's
just one thing.
Oh, sorry, Paul. Yeah.
You mentioned Justin Taglock's plugin for creating patterns, because I've actually found that whenever I have given clients access to using the block editor for creating the content, I've always created patterns for them, because I've seen them do really weird things where they've tried to create 4 columns, and actually the button below an image is actually is not even in the column, sort of thing. They didn't really get it. So the patterns is really useful. But there's another plugin very similar to what Justin Tadlock created. It's called Reusable Blocks Extended, and it's by somebody called let me just get their name. It's by John Baptiste Ordras.
Can you put that in the can you put that in the private chat, and I'll put it on the screen, and we can all see what it looks like.
Yeah, I'll find it in a couple of minutes.
I thought you had it on your screen at the moment. Don't worry if not. And you found
that
it's
one
called
to be reusable blocks extended, and also Joe, about your I listened to your podcast, most recent podcast episode, more content that you were creating, and you were talking about the acquisitions, which we're going to come into in a minute. But just say thank you for the mention for our show.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yep. I think I might have told you this offline, but I really enjoy coming on this show.
We enjoy having
him on again.
Yeah. We want him on. Well, that's very kind of you. It's
back at you.
Shed a tear. That's really nice. Shall we move on, Paul? Have you managed to get that into the notes?
I've just found it. Yep.
Is it in the private chat, or did you add it?
Not yet. It's coming.
It's coming. If you're listening to this on audio, we're about to put something on the screen.
That was really cool for the listeners.
Here we go.
There.
That's right. Yeah, I embrace the silence sometimes. There we go. It is Reusable Blocks Extended. It's got a purple kind of logo, which looks like a little bit of rope or a W or something like that. That's my technical definition of what that logo looks like. We've had lots and lots of comments coming in. Some of them just ridiculously like, why is everybody on the bottom row got a cap? And why everybody on the top row doesn't? Thank you for your comments.
Now I understand why someone said that Nathan and Jennifer were spitting. I was trying to figure out what that meant.
Were they?
It's because we're wearing a cap to stop the.
So
I was like,
I was like, oh, that's a bit offensive. Now I get the joke.
One of the nice new features of this platform, StreamYard, is that you can. I don't know how easily it works. Look, we can look now. All of it's wrong. Wow. Now we've just complete.
I feel uncomfortable now.
Yeah, that's right. You're in charge. You have the helm.
All right. We're going to talk about the Yankees getting swept by the Red Sox this weekend.
You now no longer have the helm.
He's like,
I don't do sport. Don't do sport. But thank you for putting that in. Here's an interesting question straight at you, Joe. What's the most awkward thing you found yourself doing on a live video? Well, it might have been for Joe.
Yeah, there have been, I think, 2 very awkward moments for me where I just kind of talked through them. One was I accidentally exposed both my API key and secret to my ConvertKit account, and you can't just change them. I had to like contact support, and they were like, yeah, we can't do that. And I ended up like rage tweeting, and then Nathan Barry was like, we will get this fixed for you. And I'm like, thank you. And so that was like, I was super nervous about that for the 4 people who were watching that stream that day. And then the other was I did a webinar where I was like, I'm going to upgrade not a live site, a staging version of my live site to WordPress 5.0 live so people can see exactly how the process goes. It was a WooCommerce site, and it was on a hosting company that had blocked WordPress 5.0 from automatically upgrading. So the whole server crashed. the whole WordPress install crashed, and I just spent the hour like troubleshooting it and just talk. And I'm like, I'm really sorry, everybody. This is not how this was supposed to go. And then I did like a post-mortem or whatever after the fact to figure out what happened. But I got so many nice comments like, this is great. Like we're seeing like what happens when like the absolute worst thing happens and how you troubleshoot it. So it was an awkward situation that I was able to like talk my way out of.
This is great. I can see a whole new horizon for me, just making calamity WordPress videos where I just totally screw everything up. Yeah, just literally, because that is my default. In fact, Paul, you can test it. I've made very few YouTube videos.
You made a toolset video.
I made a toolset video back in the day, and man, it was just a catastrophe from start to finish.
Though. It just showed your personality there at the same time, that you can really, have a laugh at your own expense and still publish the video online.
Yeah, it was awful, but it was quite funny. I called myself a donkey about 8 times. There is over here where's it gone? Oh, this is nice. Todd Jones. What a nice comment. Your way, Joe. He's really good at those live. He communicates well with the audience.
He does.
Best videos. He
does a really good job. They're enjoyable to listen to too. I think you're like just calm and like.
Well, thank you very much.
Well done.
Thank you. I really
and then there's some sort of like football related comment. We'll move swiftly on. We don't.
Just a point of order. I am a Yankee fan.
Go on.
I am upset by the sweep. We'll get you next time.
What is it like? Forgive me, right? Because I realize that like sport is a big deal. So did something bad happen in the world of sport on your team?
I mean, in the big picture, no. The Yankees got swept by the Red Sox, and the Yankees and the Red Sox are like a century-old baseball rivalry.
Oh.
So as a Yankee fan, I do not like the Red Sox, and I don't like when my team loses to the Red Sox.
And when you say swept, was it an annihilation kind of?
It was a 3-game series. And the Red Sox won all 3 last night in extra innings. So, in like overtime or whatever.
Yeah. Do you ever think about moving to the, swapping your elite? I'm not going to say it. I'm just going to move on.
Somebody asked me
That's like blasphemy for Joe.
I know. Somebody asked me if I would ever root for the Red Sox in the World Series, and I said the only time I would ever root for the Red Sox is if they were playing the Dallas Cowboys, which is an American football team, so they would never play each other.
I see. I was going to say the plot thickens, but no, it doesn't. Yeah. Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you.
There is sport is a really big thing over here as well, but it tends to be, well, obviously baseball is I don't know of any leagues or anything in this country. It tends to be football related, and probably somebody maybe in the comments will highlight a terrible football result that happened this week, but I don't know anything about them. So on to what we're going to do. We'll do acquisition news. We've got 2 pieces this week. Shock of possibly the year. This week came around and we discovered that ACF, the incredibly popular ACF, has been acquired by Delicious Brains. Jennifer is making a heart gesture. I second that. In fact, I'm going to do loads of them all over the screen like that. It's a fabulous product created and supported over the last 10 years by a fabulous gentleman called Elliot Condon. And I use the word in its proper sense. He is a really, really nice, gentle man. He's lovely. And he's been a custodian of this for 10 years. I can't think of a time where he put a foot wrong. In that, it seems like there was just a massive groundswell of support for this plugin. It almost became like the default. Everybody loved it. All the page builders jumped on board. It made things so easy to do. It enabled me to do things in WordPress that I literally couldn't have done without it. And so at the point that he reached 10 years, he made the decision that he was going to move on. He was looking for custodians of the plugin, and I don't know if he was reached out to by various other people, but he settled on the team over at Delicious Brains, and he sold it to them. Now, I think that's a cracking move. I wrote him an email to say, congratulations, well done. I'm really pleased for you. And I think he's really pleased too. He isn't the kind of guy, I don't think, who would just toss it to the highest bidder. Maybe they were the highest bidder. Maybe there were a number of bids. I don't know. But I think he chose them because of who they are and the things that they've done before. They've got an incredible suite of different WordPress products.
Yeah.
But sadly, this week we kind of got this slight take on it where some people, here's my take on it. The lifetime people, so the people who over 18 months ago had bought ACF, had bought it for a song, and they had it forever and ever, amen. Now, obviously, that's not a particularly sustainable business model, but it is the business model that Elliot had for a very long time, like 8.5 years of that. He decided 18 months ago to make it a subscription model, but obviously he's got tens of thousands, possibly hundreds, maybe even millions, for all I know, of subscribers who've just paid the smaller one-time fee and get sold. And of course, questions come around about what are you going to do about the lifetime deal people. You know, you're not going to flip us over to subscription, are you? Now, I've got a feeling that if you aren't somebody that like dwells on the pricing of WordPress products and you don't sort of frequent these lifetime deal communities, I think it's quite possible that the Delicious Brain guys literally didn't know that this tidal wave was coming their way, that they just thought, we'll buy this plugin, it's a cracking investment, and we'll see what happens. Anyway, to cut a long story short, Twitter got both barrels out and started firing and wanted to, you know, basically clarify things. It can go two ways at this point. You either sort of prostrate yourself and say everything's fine, we'll honor it, or you go the other way and alienate people. None of it's great. You know, it's not a good place to be in, but they honored it within hours. When they'd figure out the firestorm, they honored it. They put out a tweet, they put out an email basically saying it's going to be fine, we're going to honor everybody. So it was a story which lasted about 6 hours. It got very heated for a small period of time, and I really need a drink of water.
We have to acknowledge the fact here, though, that, okay, so a couple things. They never said that they weren't going to honor the lifetime folks, which I am one, right? Like, we bought it forever and a day ago. But it was never said we're not going to honor lifetime things. Like, there was somebody that asked, and I think, like, if you look at the response back from Brad, right, it was, we hadn't really thought about this all that much. And somebody asked, and I said, well, we're thinking about this. What do you think? But did it publicly. Somebody took that as a statement that they said, this is what we're doing, and then tweeted it out. Which is not what he meant or what he said. So you got to kind of, like, on one hand, you have to think, did you really not think about this? Like, how do you get a plugin like that and not think about this?
Yeah,
and
it is
on the
curious.
other hand, you feel a little bad for him because you're like, well, somebody misunderstood what you were trying to do, right? You were trying to, like, say, oh, we'll ask people, like, what do you think? And they thought, this is what you're doing? Screw you, right? And then all the pitchforks came out with, how dare you ever make us pay $1 more again? You know, we hate you.
Do we know, was that email that got clipped and posted everywhere? In fact, I think I saw that email from Brad, or it was a reply to an email querying the new pricing. And
it was a private email.
It was right.
It didn't go to customers, because I am both a Delicious Brains customer and a ACF customer who's on the lifetime deal.
Okay, so it was a screenshot of a private email where it the way I read it, Brad was just checking out the water. Like, what do you think? I mean, it ended with a question mark, right? It was a query.
And then everybody was like, ah!
Yeah. Okay.
Can I just?
Yes.
As the representative American East Coaster here, that is such a trash move to take a private email and screenshot it and put it on Twitter. Like, that is, I'm just trying to publicly shame those people. And you know what? I'm on the lifetime ACF. And if Delicious Brain said tomorrow, look, we got to move you to a subscription, I'd be like, okay.
Same.
You know how much money I have made from that's like saying, hey, I'm going to rent a building from you for my store, and I'm only going to pay you once, and you have to pay utilities too. How ridiculous would that sound? If you have a tool that makes you, this is like the matinee version of my podcast last week. If you have a tool that makes you money, you should be happy to pay for that tool? Because how can you then turn around to your clients and be like, hey, I'm providing you some value and I'm going to charge you for it? If you don't see the value in the things you use, how can you expect people to see the value in what you do?
But the crazy thing was, the conversation was, people were saying like, hey, I would happily pay for this again if you had communicated this a little bit better. And I'm like, they didn't communicate anything.
Communicate it at all.
What are you talking about?
I think this is the point that I was trying to make a minute ago, whereas I think they've just stepped into something that they didn't even think was a thing. It was just that we're going to buy this plugin because we really like this plugin and this plugin's great and everybody uses this plugin and we want it really badly. And then just like, oh, hang on, there's more to this than meets the eye. And I wouldn't have anticipated that email, which was, quite benign, would have got put quite so publicly. And anyway, sorry, Paul, you've been sort of trying to get in, I think, maybe.
No, it's just, I already listened to Joe's podcast, and that was really useful to see that perspective. And I probably agree with more or less everything that everyone's saying here, but I can also see that advocate for other people who aren't necessarily like us. So first of all, congratulations to Elliot and Delicious Brains. And I also think it did need a new home, and that Delicious Brains is a really good home for that. I know that Sandhills was in the running. Yeah, Sandhills Pippin's company was in the running for it as well. I heard that in a podcast.
Wow.
Yeah.
They're good.
And that would have been a good home. So I think
I offered him £6.50, but he wasn't. He didn't want it. I was gutted.
Yeah.
Wrote him an email.
Well,
I think really stroppy.
Have you finished?
Sorry.
I think one of the things about plugins when they get bought out, or any company like that, especially at the moment, is you tend to sort of see these companies get bought out when the company's been run for like 5 to 10 years, like this one has, and a product has been created, and then at some point the owner or the creator of that product is a bit fatigued with what they're doing, and they want out, basically, and they want a good home for what they've done, because it's blood, sweat, and tears that's gone into that, and they want to give it to someone else, and then the people that buy products, whether it's hosting companies just looking to consolidate and stuff like that, they tend to not be fatigued and exhausted when they're buying these products. They're buying these products, and they've got a 5 or a 10-year plan for that product, that they'll bring it in, they'll do something with it, they'll look after it, they'll improve it, and then they'll sell it again, or they'll sell themselves again in 5 to 10 years for a significant. So it's just like a standard investment cycle. And then what you tend to get with the lifetime deal people, I mean, this isn't a typical lifetime deal. I know that this is different. This is going back 10 years. I got ACF in 2012. When it wasn't even one plugin. You had to buy multiple different parts to it. You had to buy the repeater and the flexible content part, and then I bought it again when it turned into the one-off plugin. But people who buy those sort of products in that particular community, they see themselves as seed investors, basically. So I think, and what's happening a lot in this lifetime deal thing at the moment is a lot of people are getting ripped off by companies, and people are sensitive to it. And we're all getting a letter every other day from some bill creator that, some kind of utility bill that we have to pay for, that this has gone up and that's gone up and this is going to cost more money. So people are super sensitive to it at the moment. And like you said, I just don't think Brad realized what he'd stepped on. And so I don't have any negative feelings toward Brad. I think he did a fantastic job of turning it around. Yeah. But I don't feel sorry for them. I don't feel the same as Joe exactly like that, because we're community people. So we might meet Elliot or Brad at a WordCamp and hang out and have beers and stuff like that. And we're community people, and we look out for each other, and we care about, that concept that you said, Joe, about, you want that product to succeed, so you need to put some money into it. But the majority of the thousands of people who bought that plugin just saw an offer. The business offer was, this is the plugin, this is how much it costs. And they don't want their utility bill creator and their WordPress plugins to change the rules for them, especially if they've got 30 or 40 lifetime deals. And they're like, oh, how many of these are going to turn into, am I looking at 1,000 a month eventually when all of these lifetime deals that I've got? I can't feel sorry for all of them, especially when the guy who sold it got loads of money and then the company's going to turn it into a future investment.
And
so
let's be honest, most of us that are talking about the fact that we would happily pay for this again are people that bought the lifetime access like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years ago. And you've got to feel for the people that were on Twitter saying, hey, you did this big push for the lifetime. We're never going to do lifetime again 1 year ago.
Right.
And now they thought, wait a second, you're doing what? Like, you've got to feel for those people, especially in this climate. Like, maybe a couple years ago, it wouldn't have been in that big of a deal, but we've just come out of like 18 months of what for some people have been an incredibly hard business climate, right? That they're watching every expense and every penny. And it's like, this was the wrong time to have that kind of.
Yeah. And I will say, like, unexpected business expenses are unexpected any expenses, right, are no fun. And I can definitely feel from that point of view, like my bills are about to go up, right? But I collect these lifetime deals on AppSumo or whatever, and I try them out, and most of them are duds, to be honest. And if there's a lifetime deal that's like, we're switching to a subscription model, I'm gonna be like, that's their business. And if I don't feel I get the value out of it, then I'm not going to pay for it. I'm going to find something else. But like, there was outrage when Elementor raised their prices it's still not that expensive, right? Like, for the agency, if like 1,000 sites for like $9.99 or something like that, like if you've got if you've got like 200 sites using Elementor, you're making that money back easy. And ACF is the same, right? This is when he raised his prices 18 months ago or whatever. There was an outpouring of people going, I bought the lifetime and I'm buying the subscription because that's how much value it brings me. So definitely not a blanket statement, but with ACF specifically, like, it brings so much value to a lot of people that either like you should be like, okay, they need this, I need it. So whatever they need to do to keep it going, because otherwise I'm going to have all this technical debt. I'm going to have to move to like pods or something. Not that there's anything against pods, but
yeah.
I just picked a random one.
Yeah.
So
there's going to be pitchforks now, Joe.
I know.
Come get you.
The pod people are going to come for me.
Yeah. I'm really happy it's gone that way. I think he's made a really great decision. Honestly, I've spoken to Elliot many times, and he's just the nicest person. And I say that very sincerely. I feel so privileged to have met him, and I'm really pleased it's worked out for him. I remember back in whenever it was, let's say it was 18 months ago, that he went to from lifetime to subscription. Remember, he had on his website this curve, and it was kind of like 10 years ago, and it was years against support burden, and it went like this. And then it just suddenly started to creep up, and then it literally went up, and it was going through the roof. And the prediction was that it would just keep going. So support and all of that was just going to become a huge thing. So you need a team for that. And I don't know what Elliot's plans are in the future. I hope he stays within WordPress. Let's all cross our fingers. But good luck, Elliot. Enjoy your
one thing I'll say about new owners, Delicious Brains, I think there's still a way for them to look at this idea of making more revenue from existing customers. I think they can create different add-ons that are not part of the same thing. And I think the majority of people would be absolutely happy with that. I think this just shows how sensitive the community can be. And that's not a criticism of the community. It's just kind of like, look how dry the wood is. And it doesn't take much to ignite things, because we've had a bad couple of years. We all want to support ACF, and honestly, if they come up with some way of kind of giving them, extra dev money and stuff like that, then I'll definitely consider that. At the same time, we do have to consider, they've bought this plugin as Delicious Brains. They in 5 to 10 years time, when they've matured it, they don't want to, go, okay, we've worked on this plugin for 5 years, we're about to sell it, and then Elliot goes, hang on, I've decided that you guys need to pay me money every month when you sell this product to the next person, and they'll be like, no, that's not the deal. And so I think I guess what I'm saying is that business is business when you buy something, but it doesn't mean that you can't reach out to that community of customers and go, hey, should we do something even better together? This is the history of ACF. Let's put some money inside. Guys, we're going to make some money out about this in 5 years, but you're going to get an amazing product that's going to be eclipse anything ACF has ever even done before. We've got 8 developers working on this now rather than 2. And so I think that's the direction that it should go. I don't think Brad should give up and go, oh my gosh, we can't ever ask those people for any money more again. Because the people that where it blew up was a kind of small, it was the 1% of the 1% sort of thing, that care about this kind of thing.
Good point.
And then it just escalated on social media, as things tend to do.
I think Brad should worry because I've just started a new plugin and it's called Very Advanced Custom Fields.
Whoa. Wow.
I know.
Whoa.
I know. They're going to be so advanced.
Yeah. If Elliot NFT'd the AFC code, he would get money every time it got sold or whatever.
Yeah. That stuff is
right?
crazy.
NFT?
Yeah. Just bonkers. I literally can't get my head around that people pay like life-changing amounts of money for a digital token, which as far as I can see, means nothing. I don't get it.
It's so weird.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It's literally like me giving you a piece of paper and saying it's 50,000, 100, maybe 300 for that.
You can photocopy it and give it to whoever you want, but you have the original.
Yeah, you got the original. I got the first tweet. Yeah.
Have Brad Williams on. He buys NFTs every night. That's like
okay. Okay. I'll probably be wrong. Right. Last
we'll
one,
both
I think.
Be wrong.
Let's make this the last one.
I admit I know nothing.
Yeah. You stay that way about this. It's a silly thing. It is a silly thing, as Monty Python would say. I think that's the first time I've quoted Monty Python. Moving on, Iconic WP. You're doing this one, aren't you, Paul? Is that all right?
Yeah, sure. So iconicwp.com is a suite of, I think, 15 WooCommerce related plugins. And they've been acquired by Stellar WP, which is the new brand name that Liquid Web has kind of put out there to be the brand that sort of holds all its plugin IP as such. And Stellar WP now has iThemes, Restrict Content Pro, Give WP, the Events Calendar, Cadence WP, Iconic WP. So, I mean, what an amazing suite of plugins. It is
stellar, isn't it? It really
is stellar. It's a good name, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it does say on their website, actually, it gives you an idea of the direction they're going to go. They've got in a huge font. I think it's on their homepage somewhere. If you click on the logo, it probably take you back to the just telling you how WordPress websites work. If you scroll down a little bit, it says somewhere, we're obsessed with commerce. It's a little bit further down than there, I think.
There you go.
There. And so that kind of, to me, kind of says everything, that the direction they're going to take is this WooCommerce direction. I think, Joe, you might have said on your podcast because it's a good, definitely listen to Joe's latest podcast because he's talking all about the concept of acquisitions and the why and what it means to us and all the different companies and everything. But I think Liquid Web have a WooCommerce specific hosting package. They've got all these plugins. They've just bought Iconic WP. So the chances are you're going to see a product from their hosting range that includes free access probably to a bunch of these different plugins, so that basically this hosting company can push out solutions, ready-made solutions and packages for people. Another amazing acquisition, some serious talent under this umbrella now.
It was
probably
James.
Nothing like it, actually. I think this is the biggest collection of big names that I can imagine. The one other thing I'll just say, sorry, Nathan, was that if you look at these kind of acquisitions that the hosting companies are making, they tend to be solutions for end users. ACF is quite a different one, really, because it's a high level one, and I think we probably just don't hear about a lot of the other ones that are for developer tools. ACF is more of a developer tool. So Delicious Brains, you kind of wonder what they've got planned for that. And that's why I think you have to kind of come in and say, can we get in and help them move that forward? Whereas with Stellar WP, they're clearly buying things for their end users and creating packages. So Joe and Jennifer and Nathan, I don't know what you've got to say about this, but an amazing.
I'm just going to quickly
acquisition.
say this: we had James Kemp on the podcast. Oh, I don't know, maybe he had him on this podcast, but also on the audio podcast. And really nice guy, another really nice, humble guy. But I kind of feel that maybe he how to describe this. I don't want to say anything inflammatory. It had gone perhaps a little bit under the radar. It wasn't quite as off on the tip of everybody's tongue. So I wonder if pushing it towards Stellar will just give it like the boost that it deserves. Because if you go and look at, I don't know if the iconic website, the old site, is still up. I'm guessing it probably is.
Yeah, it is.
There's a ton of good stuff there. There's a boatload of great things to do with WooCommerce there. And I'm pleased for James. I'm really, really happy for him that he's managed to sell it on and to another great custodian. So I'll shut up, Jennifer or Joe.
Well, I think what's interesting about these two acquisitions is I think they went to the places that they make sense, right? Like Delicious Brains is known for their developer tools. I mean, WP Migrate DB Pro, like how do you not even use that, right? That's just synonymous with building. And so to have someone who's already committed to building really high quality, good tools for developers take on ACF made a lot of sense, right? And there's some extra trust built in there.
Yep.
And then having Stellar WP from, Liquid Web and Nexus, taking Iconic WP into their fold, right? And pulling that into their offering. It's for site owners and users. And we've already seen kind of Liquid Web's investment to e-commerce when Chris Lemma went over there. Like they really pioneered the idea of WooCommerce hosting and WooCommerce packages for users that had all of these things built in to help you run a better online store. You sign up for a WooCommerce hosting plan and you've got analytics and you've got all of these things already built into their WooCommerce hosting plans. And you look at the plugins that they're bringing in, right? Bringing in Iconic WP, bringing in Give. These are all things that users need to be able to do e-commerce, right? To be able to take donations and support nonprofits or improve their e-commerce site and sell more money through their site and make more transactions and improve user experience. And I think we've seen that with Liquid Webs with rolling out their store builder, right? One click, spin up an e-commerce store. Yeah. We're dropping in sample content. We're dropping in sample images. Like you pick your niche, you pick your thing, you hit a button and you have a site ready to edit. So I think it's looking at the acquisitions. Like sometimes you look at an acquisition and you're like, that was weird. Like I didn't see that. But these really make sense if you look at kind of what these companies do and kind of what their goal is moving forward. That whole idea of we're obsessed with commerce, right? Leaning into making owning and running and building an e-commerce site as easy as possible with WooCommerce. That's where their focus is. So this, to me, makes tons of sense.
Just before we gave Joe a chance to speak, I'm just going to put his podcast episode up. There we go. That's the one I think, Paul, you were just mentioning. How I built .it. So not how I built it, how I built .it, like an Italian website. Joe Casabona. That was my attempt at being Italian. I'm so embarrassed.
That was good.
Yeah. Anyway, there you go. There's a podcast episode released really recently called "What Do Acquisitions in the WordPress Space Mean?" Joe, if you've got anything to add, we'll hand it over.
Yeah, absolutely. So, and there's a short link to that. WPReview.io will just take you to like that part of the website, so you don't have to remember that ridiculously long URL. But first of all, I think that probably Delicious Brain should change their homepage. The headline should be, "How do you not even use that?" I think that's perfect because it's so true. But I mean, with respects to Stellar WP and Liquid Web and Nexus, I mean, Jennifer made all the perfect points here, right? They have managed WooCommerce hosting. They just rolled out a store builder. I made this point for the first time a few weeks ago on this podcast, where it seems like each hosting company is picking their niche or their niche and they're digging in, right?
Yep.
WP Engine is targeting designers probably, right? Because they bought StudioPress, they bought Flywheel, which was like designer specific hosting really. GoDaddy is focusing fully on WooCommerce. Nexus, Liquid Web, they're focusing on a bigger commerce picture. They were the first ones to roll out something like managed WooCommerce hosting, but then they also bought Restrict Content Pro, Give WP, WP Complete, I think was
That
the
rings a
one,
bell. Yeah.
the other one that they. It's like it helps you build courseware without an LMS, pretty much. And so they're focusing on what are the ways that people make money online and how can we make that easier? And Iconic has just some really fantastic,
Really nice. Yeah.
really fantastic plugins here that make specific things in WooCommerce a lot easier. Wish lists for WooCommerce, WooCommerce account pages. Do you know how much code you have to fight to like make the account pages or like the checkout page look better than you want it than it is out of the box? Like, so yeah, right. And so these plugins I think will be great value adds for their managed WooCommerce customers, managed WooCommerce hosting. We got to call it that. Managed WooCommerce hosting customers. But I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see some of those tools kind of collaborate a little bit more, right? With Restrict Content Pro or with Give WP, and you have this big kind of choose your own adventure e-commerce store builder thing.
Oh, I like the way I like that. Choose your own adventure. That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, we all
That's
like
nice.
choose your own adventure books
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. Do any of you I don't know if you know, David McCann is listening on the comments, and I noticed in his Facebook group, he got an email from Elementor, which isn't a personal email. It's just like to all the customers who signed up to the early announcements about Elementor's kind of platform building ambitions. And Elementor have released their pricing actually for their hosting.
Oh yeah, I didn't.
So to get a hosted solution with Elementor Pro pre-installed on there is the typical price is just under $20 per month, but they're giving early bird access for $10 a month. Or I'm not sure if that's like just a year or something. But any thoughts on Elementor in this kind of empire building thing at the moment?
I feel like buying Elementor as a site, like on a SaaS, right? Buy it, get it hosted. You're moving almost more towards solutions like Squarespace, right? Or WordPress.com or something like that, where it's less about buy this page builder to work on your theme and do things, but here's an all-in-one solution. Like, I feel like that's more of a move with a long-term game on something like becoming a WordPress.com or a Squarespace or something like that.
Their pricing is quite similar to Automatic's WordPress.com's entry-level business packages. So you could say they're going head-to-head with WordPress.com. It's kind of like you're both using WordPress. You can go this way, or you can go this way. Or you can go to Squarespace and Wix or something like that. but yeah,
it's the same idea of pay the monthly fee and it's there ready for you to
There's your solution.
build, right?
Just press the buttons. Yeah. It feels like Liquid Web and some of these other hosting companies are saying, no, you are totally aware this is WordPress. You wanted WordPress. You're going in on WordPress, and you're in there because you've heard that WordPress gives you all these options. So it seems that they're going in a slightly different direction. So,
do you remember years ago, Studio Press bought out what was the product called? But they completely removed the WordPress UI, and it had
Rainmaker.
That was it, Rainmaker. Yeah, it didn't kind of quite work out, and I feel that might be the way that Elementor may be going. I don't know. Just sort of, it's just Elementor. You've got an Elementor site, and you log in, and you get the Elementor user interface, and it's slightly different. I don't know. Time will tell.
Yeah, that seems like an interesting. Maybe they have data that backs this up, right? But Elementor's problem in the beginning was they gave too much away for free. It didn't really encourage people to upgrade to Pro. But the people who were upgrading to Pro were the people who were building websites for other people I don't know. I mean, I think it would take a big marketing effort to reach outside of those people, to the Wix people or to the Squarespace people, or to find that alternative. Because I feel like Elementor's core audience is really designers who don't want to spend their days like coding nice landing pages or something like that. That's like an oversimplification, of course, but it's the freelancers or the agency owners, as their pricing reflects.
Well, I think that was Rainmaker's problem, right? Copyblogger had a huge audience, and I think they thought, "Ooh, let us build our own website platform, and we'll be able to roll in the dough with all these monthly subscriptions." So they forked out WordPress, right? Rebranded the entire thing so it looked nothing like WordPress.
It really didn't look like WordPress, did it?
Wow.
Yeah.
No, and their like crazy evangelist copyblogger fans were all in. But once you got outside those people, other people that bought it, like we had several people that hired us to build custom themes for Rainmaker. And I would log in and I'm like, what is this mess?
Yeah, it's blue. It's blue everywhere, blue and white. Yeah.
I can't find anything. Nothing looks like what I'm expecting. Like things are in weird places and they're hidden. And it was so much work to work in that because they tried to make it something so different from WordPress, which fine if you're the people in that community, but once you get outside that community and your people are expecting something like WordPress because it's Studio Press and it's Copyblogger and they're in that space and they log in and they're like, this is, I don't even know what to do with this. Right. So at least Elementor has a similar user experience, right? To what,
yeah. And I mean, maybe they have customers who are like, hey, this is great. If I didn't even have to think about hosting, right? Or if I could just sign my client up for an Elementor site, right? Like make me an affiliate and then I'll make money from, like
I would imagine that they've run the numbers and worked out that there's enough of those. Yeah.
Elementor, if you haven't thought of that, I want like 5%.
Yeah. You heard it here first. And can I have just, I don't know, 1%?
It is a good idea.
For his idea.
Yeah, it's the flywheel sell on your hosting model, but with the entire solution as well, isn't it? So, well, I'll tell you what, if about Rainmaker, we can ask Brian Gardner. He's agreed to come on the show in the next couple of weeks or months. We haven't agreed on a date yet, but he's going to come on the show, owner of Studio Press. So we can ask him about what he thinks about Elementor's plans in relation to Rainmaker.
Interesting.
Nice. Yeah, when it comes on.
We'll get the skinny. Right. We've used up far too much of you good people's time. We've run over by about 8 minutes. I apologize for that. Thank you for coming on, Jennifer Bourn. What's the best place to find you, Jennifer? I know we've probably gone through this, but you never know. Somebody might be listening right at the end. Where can we find you best?
JenniferBourn.com.
That'll do it. And Joe?
Casabona.org.
Nice. And Paul?
I guess you can look at paullacey.digital.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And there we go. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. We'll be back this time next week, 2 p.m. UK time, every Monday. This week in WordPress, we'll be back. And have a nice week. Stay safe. And we'll
it's
see you
time
soon.
for the wave.
Oh, yeah. We've got to do the awkward wave.
Fine.
Jennifer doesn't know about this. You've got to
Let's
wave
do it.
awkwardly. And we don't know
Joe.
how